You're listening to SoapDirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey there, B&B fans. This is Belinda from SoapDirt, and I have a special video today for you inspired by one of our commenters here. Kim Ziegler asked us, did Carter and Brooke set the scene in Rome? And another commenter replied back, yes. And so I thought that was, I read all your comments, by the way. I don't always have time to reply to all of them, but I read every single one of them every day. And this one really caught my attention because I was like, I wonder. So I looked back at the scenes to see if it is plausible. And I'm going to tell you right now that it is. And I'm going to explain to you how it could have happened. But if you haven't already, please reach down, click subscribe so you don't miss any of our B&B updates. Okay, so did Brooke do what Taylor accused her of doing and play the Dusty Destiny card in Rome with an assist from Carter? Now, I'm not saying she did this, and I'm not calling into doubt the legitimacy of this reunion with Ridge, but it's always good to think about these things because before Brad Bell took over, when his dad was running the soap, Brooke did a lot of schemy, really fun, really soapy stuff. That was back in the day. She was brawling in the mud with people, doing some really fun stuff. I mean, I know they had like that paint brawl the other day, but for me, Brooke was a lot more interesting when his dad was in charge of the show than she is now. So anyway, to remind you, Brooke and Ridge were sightseeing separately, and then they were all back together and back at the little villa they were staying at. And then it was actually Carter that went with Ridge to the Aventine keyhole. That's what the thing is called in Rome that you peek through. It's a very famous spot. You peep through this keyhole and you can see these giant ancient doors. I think they were from like 989 AD. So they're over 1,000 years old. It's outside a monastery that once housed the Knights Templar and then the Knights of Malta. So it's a very interesting, very famous spot, and the legends about it conflict with what happened on Bold. And I'm going to tell you how. So how this whole thing started. Carter and Brooke were chit-chatting. Okay, that's sign one that maybe they were scheming. Then Ridge joined them, and there was this Italian woman, and she said, go to the Aventine keyhole to see your future, your destiny. She used the D word. And so that right away had Brooke going, ooh, and it had, Ridge a little intrigued because he's like, I don't know if I believe in destiny anymore. So could it be that Brooke and Carter decided to forcefully make Ridge believe in destiny again? So, because here's how it happened. Brooke told Ridge, I'll meet you there. I'm going to get changed. So the two guys head out. Why didn't she just say, give me 5 minutes and I'll change and then we'll all go? I mean, how long does it take to get changed? Come on. So that to me is red flag one of a potential setup. I'm not saying there was potential setup. So she's not there. And so Ridge is calling her and it's going to voicemail. Carter peeped through the keyhole and he told Ridge to look. He kept saying, look, you need to look, you need to look. Ridge was kind of like, yeah, he didn't really care about it. But then Carter kept at it until Ridge looked, and then he saw Brooke there. So what happened was Ridge saw his destiny, and then he went running off to find Brooke, and they had this big kiss, and the rest is history. It's literally history because we've seen them, do this a million times after he had left Taylor or some other woman and, waffling on a whim. But so it is history, and now it's our present reality. But could it all have been a setup? So after looking back at the entire episode, piece by piece, based on this comment, theoretically, Carter and Brooke could absolutely have set this up to convince Ridge that she is his destiny. And Katie might have been pressing Carter to help since they're lovers. And this would not be Brooke's first scheme to make sure that she wound up with Ridge and Taylor didn't. From paternity lies to faked pregnancy, her track record of trickery is evident. Whether you're Team Brooke or not, and that's, great if you are, but she has done things in the past to desperately try and get him away from another woman. Those are just facts. And I'm not saying that other women haven't tried it either. I'm just saying about Brooke and Ridge, this would not be unprecedented. So how would it, being a setup, align to what we saw on screen? Let's walk through it. So first, let's say that Carter and Brooke planned it all pre-Rome. They were planning it pre-Rome and it was all off screen. And then they bribed this Italian lady to drop the destiny remark so Brooke could suggest visiting the keyhole. Because here's the reality. There is no destiny legend around that keyhole, and any Roman knows that. So the whole thing was based on a false premise to start with, which is sketchy. So it's sloppy writing by the B&B writers or a setup, one or the other. And it's not like, we know they do sloppy stuff. So then we had this montage of Brooke running around, trying to get to somewhere, looking at her phone, looking lost, and her battery dies. So if you think that throws off this theory, it doesn't actually. And here's why. Brooke might have been searching for the location that she and Carter knew she needed to stand at to be there when Ridge looked through the keyhole. So she might not have been looking for the keyhole using the app on her phone. She might have been looking for the spot where she was supposed to be standing to be seen. So then Carter peeped first, and that could have been to make sure that Brooke was there and in the right spot so that Ridge could see her. And then he started pestering Ridge to look and wouldn't let up until he did. So if Brooke schemed with Carter, then she did indeed play a dusty destiny card as she was accused of playing. You don't get much dustier than a door and a keyhole that is more than 1,000 years old. So I will say, yes, it is far-fetched, but if it was the writers from 20 years ago under Bill Bell, it would have been something that they definitely would do. Under Brad Bell, I don't think it's going to come out that way, because what the show is famous for, to me, under Brad Bell's direction, is they build up to these big climaxes and you think, oh, somebody's going to punch somebody, or somebody's going to do this or that, and it's going to be this real dramatic conclusion. We're going to have a confrontation. We're going to have a big reveal of a secret plot. And then they just wimp out and it just turns to nothing. And you're like, why? Why did I spend 2 months watching you build this plot? And when it came to the point of the climax of the story, you just wussed out. That's where I feel the show is under Brad Bell. I think he needs to go back and rewatch some seasons that were under his dad's stewardship and learn how to do a better soap. That's my 2 cents. Share in your comments what your 2 cents are. I'd love to read them. All right, we are going to dig into a little more about this in 1 second, but if you haven't already, please reach down, click subscribe so you don't miss any of our bold updates. If you are enjoying this, click a like and definitely drop your comments. I know people are going to have some comments. Somebody told me the other day in one of the comments, leave Brooke alone. Okay, first of all, Brooke's not a person. She's a character. I just want to say that. And I'm an avid soap fan, and I'm saying that. I'm not trying to be insulting, but you can't take something personally that is a conversation about a character on a TV show. And the second thing is, I talk about Taylor, I talk about everybody, but when you're front and center on a soap, you get talked about a little more. And I'm not anti-Brooke. I'm not. I'm anti-Ridge, if I'm going to be honest. I think he needs to be booted by both of them, and she can go back to Deacon. Taylor can find Bill. I think she'd be great. Not a fan of Ridge. I'm not a fan of the International Society of Waffling Men in general. So back to this. As a point of fact, the real view through the keyhole is something I'm going to show you right now in just a second. You can only see greenery and the dome of St. Peter's Basilica. There is no place within the view of that keyhole that a person can be seen, that a person can walk by, because the gardens there at the monastery are not open to the public. It's not something you can just wander onto. And then the patio where Ridge ran and found Brooke is from a whole different portion of Rome with a different view of the great dome of that basilica. So For those reasons, yes, to the person that told us this and inspired it, we appreciate your comment. And yes, it is completely plausible. Whether Bold goes there or not with Brooke is a whole different thing, And the good thing is they could actually have filmed it all with the idea of we could expose this later as a setup, or depending on what fans think, we could leave it the other way. So maybe they haven't even decided yet. We'll see. Wait to see if Destiny leads Brooke and Ridge to the altar for a 9th time on Bold and the Beautiful. Stay tuned.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. SoapDirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.